Okay, well, thank you, Megan. We've come to the end of a fantastic year at Wakaaranga Primary, and I just want to ask you, as I've asked Leslie and others, similar sort of questions to reflect upon your progress and growth with e-learning in your classroom this year. So, how has e-learning impacted upon your teaching this year?
E-learning has changed my pedagogy and practice in many ways. It's given me a big wake-up call about where the future is heading with education and children's learning. It's been clear that I had to make moves to change my practice, and it's made it clear to me that many teachers that aren't on this train need to get on it, otherwise they're going to be left behind.
Sure. So what have been some notable successes for you then, or your class this year?
Notable successes would be, I wish that I had taken some baseline data when I started, because then I could actually really measure it and analyse it. But I feel, my gut feeling is that one of my notable successes would be the organisation of my program and the changes I've made to integrate e-learning into the program. Another notable success would be my students' engagement in learning. That has improved. To measure that, I don't know how I would have measured that.
Yeah, measuring engagement is hard, but I guess if they're engaged, then they're working, aren't they? Which means, so I guess that's a target for next year. Then is we need to establish some baseline data in term one, and review this at the same time next year.
Yes.
Okay, so were there any challenges you had to overcome?
Challenges I had to overcome were probably my lack of confidence in doing what I was doing. However, once I realised that I didn't have to be a master of all the tools, that the students could take ownership of learning and learning to use the tools, then that became a lot easier. So that was a big challenge. I felt that I didn't have the knowledge a lot of the time to run with the tools and to use for their learning. However, once I got over that barrier, it became a lot clearer, and we learnt together. There was a lot of learning done collaboratively and a lot of learning done together.
So actually what you were modelling was lifelong learning?
Yes,
which is
I would hope so.
Yeah, because what you're actually saying is that your previous model of teaching would be about you being in control of all variables.
Yes, I was in control of the environment, I was in control of the groups, I was in control of what was going on. And to an extent I still am, because I haven't quite let go of all the reins yet. And I know you want me to.
Yes.
But I have no qualms now in doing things like giving 2 or 3 children a camera and saying go out and do this, and you know, and it's a trust thing that you have to build up to.
Yeah, it is.
And that takes a little while to build up, but that's another thing that has been hugely positively impacted, is that's whole engagement thing. You know, you give them a task and they actually go away and do that because it's involving them in their learning and they want to do it, and there's no bother about the fact that they're actually going to run away with the camera and actually hide in the toilets or anything, because they just want to do it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's brilliant. Thank you. How have you had to adapt your classroom management to sort of incorporate e-learning into your classroom?
Okay, I was so lucky getting the 7 laptops. I felt very lucky indeed, because not everyone had them. So I knew that I had to get those working in my classroom immediately, and you know, not have any sitting idle. So that was a bit of a challenge at first, you know, making sure that I had my program running in a way that was going to integrate the use of those computers into every minute of every day, really. And then I had to get over the fact that actually sometimes there might have been times when the kids were with me doing some sort of instructional thing, and there may not be anyone on the computer, and that was actually okay as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That took me a while to get over that, but what was the question again?
Well, what have you had to adapt in your classroom management?
Yeah, so I had to ensure that I had my program organised and planned so that it was incorporating and integrating all the e-learning throughout my program. So that was a bit of a challenge. It wasn't an added on anymore. It was actually the soul of the program. It was
So you basically moved it from the exterior as an add-on to the centre of what you're doing.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. So it's a big change.
It was a big change.
So as a result of that, then, what has been the impact on student learning? I mean, you've talked about motivation.
Okay, yeah, motivation, definitely. There's no question about that. Motivation's improved. And it's funny because reflecting on this just recently, my class hasn't been at all challenging behaviour-wise this year. However, I've had a regular reliever come in that has been coming in since the beginning of the year, because I've spent quite some time out of my classroom this year with other commitments. And he has made comment to me about the fact that the class is a lot more settled. And I feel that part of that is their engagement with e-learning and their motivation and the learning that they're doing within our classroom program. As far as their learning goes, I'm convinced, again, I wished I'd done some specific baseline data, but I'm convinced that their learning outcomes have improved just from the output and what they can talk to me about their learning. You know, things that we've done with blogs they've created and with photo stories that they've created, and the fact that they can discuss what they've done with me and they can talk to me about what they've learnt.
That's really interesting, and we'll discuss that more about that. I too believe that there's a direct correlation between classroom management issues in terms of behaviour and engagement with e-learning. I think there's a direct correlation, and I'd like to explore that further.
I'm convinced, because he came in and he specifically said, "Gee, your class is much more settled than it was at the beginning of the year." Or earlier in the year, and I thought, I actually think that has impacted on...
Because they're more engaged.
Yes.
Okay, so finally, that's really interesting. Has there been any positive impacts upon students because of e-learning in other areas that you had not anticipated? So we've lightly touched on behaviour.
Yes, definitely. I've got students in my class who have taken on mentoring roles.
Magic.
They are very skilled with how to use computers, problem solving, anything like that. And one child in particular is not overly academic in many fields. However, he's got a definite bent for that sort of field, and he has been the most amazing mentor and tutor for the other students.
So it's good self-esteem growth for him too.
Absolutely. And other students who I didn't think would be likely to be able to help and assist others have been. And they've been able to buddy up and collaborate, and that to me is one of the major impacts, the collaboration thing, and it's something I'd like to take further next year. Myself with my class is to collaborate with other students in other places.
Absolutely.
It's not something I've done this year, but I would like to move into doing that next year.
That's epic. No, that's really good. Thank you for that. So we've got some work to do between now and next year.
Yes.